A little girl saw a black sphere, and was immediately drawn to it. She walked over and asked Bigman what it was. Bigman placed the sphere in front of the girl and said, "This is something amazing." The black sphere, like a hedgehog, emanated spiky rays of light. The girl was captivated by the sight. Suddenly, the children behind her all fell to the ground, losing consciousness. A strong gust of wind came, and the girl also fell to the ground. The black sphere continued to pulsate. Bigman happily said, "I told you it was amazing." Children in the city kept fainting inexplicably like this. A group of children were running happily. The next second, A fell to the ground. B fell to the ground. C also fell to the ground. Another group of children lost consciousness. At this moment, the student detective Yusuke happened to pass by. Seeing parents holding their unconscious children, Yusuke suspected that the criminal was nearby. Indeed, Yusuke saw Bigman disappear into an alley. Yusuke chased after him frantically, but in the parking lot, Bigman vanished. There was a strange black sphere on the ground, still pulsating. Yusuke went to pick it up, but was ambushed by the Bigman. He transformed into a red monster, throwing Yusuke more than 300 feet away. The big man's whole body turned red, with 2 horns and wild boar tusks. It turned out he was a demon from the demon realm named Tough Ghost. He had immense strength. This black sphere is one of the 3 great treasures of the spirit world, the evil spirit sphere, which absorbs children's souls. Tough Ghost absorbed the spiritual energy from the black sphere. Tough Ghost shouted, "Puny human, how dare you oppose me?" He made a big jump and landed heavily. Fortunately, Yusuke dodged in time. With his immense strength, Tough Ghost instantly smashed a car roof, creating a large pit. Relying on his agility, Yusuke kept moving across the roofs of various cars, smoothly sliding into one. Tough Ghost lifted a motorcycle and directly smashed the car window. Yusuke was about to escape. Tough Ghost leaped and came to the front of the car, punching and shattering the window. About to open the door, Yusuke took the opportunity to kick open the window, delivering a headbutt to Tough Ghost's face. But against such overwhelming strength, it was like tickling Tough Ghost. Yusuke hid behind the car door. Tough Ghost tore off the door, swinging the door as a frisbee, throwing it at Yusuke. Yusuke jumped 32 feet into the air and successfully dodged, then jumped onto the roof of the car, jumping and kicking Tough Ghost in the face. But for Tough Ghost, the damage was almost zero. Instead, Tough Ghost grabbed Yusuke by the neck, threw him heavily to the ground, and directly flung him away. Yusuke hid in the car again. Tough Ghost's anger was at its peak, punching and creating a skylight in the car roof. Yusuke took the opportunity to hide. It seemed that without using the spirit gun, it was impossible to defeat Tough Ghost. Yusuke tried to condense the spirit gun, but it was still only the size of a golf ball. Yusuke tried to take the initiative, jumping up and punching, but this physical damage had no effect on Tough Ghost at all. Tough Ghost grabbed Yusuke with a backhand and slammed him to the ground, clamping tightly on Yusuke's neck. It seemed like Yusuke was about to take his last breath. A tender voice came from behind. "Stop, don't hurt my brother." It was the little boy Yusuke had saved before. Upon seeing this, Tough Ghost thought, "How can I miss such a delicious soul?" So he immediately let go of Yusuke, picked up the demon ball. The boy immediately fainted. His golden soul was sucked out, and flew into the ball. Tough Ghost took out the golden ball. He was about to put the small ball into his mouth. Yusuke became furious at once. He picked up a stick, accelerated and jumped onto Tough Ghost. The stick propped up Tough Ghost's big mouth. He posed like a pistol, condensed a huge spirit gun. The spirit gun kept rotating and growing. A shot to the head. A powerful shockwave blew both of them away. Tough Ghost is dead. The children's souls were rescued. All the children woke up. The little boy woke up in Yusuke's arms. Yusuke retrieved the evil spirit ball, completed the first mission. The next mission is even more difficult. This girl's tears are actually pearls. The girl is locked in a cage. The villain burns the girl's arm with a cigar. The girl immediately shed tears of pain. The next second, her tears turned into a peerless pearl. The villain laughed. The long-lost ice tear pearl has appeared. So can Yusuke save this girl? Yusuke is the top bully in school. He has never lost a fight. On his way to school, an out-of-control truck was rampaging. People were scared and fled. At this moment, the little boy's ball rolled into the middle of the road. Seeing the truck about to hit the little boy, Yusuke rushed over fiercely, saved the little boy, but he was rolled under the wheels, rolled and crushed. Losing his breath, the truck also overturned. The ambulance arrived quickly, but Yusuke stood up without any pain, and with other onlookers, watched his own dead body on the ground. Before Yusuke could figure out what was going on, he saw himself being lifted onto the ambulance. At this time, his childhood sweetheart, Keiko, rushed over. Seeing severely injured Yusuke, Keiko burst into tears. Seeing this, Yusuke shouted, "I'm here. but Keiko couldn't hear him at all. Yusuke was hit by a car to save a child. At this moment, the ambulance door closed. Yusuke was stunned. The medical staff passed through his body. At that moment, Yusuke realized that he was already dead. At this time, a beautiful Grim Reaper girl came. The Grim Reaper girl said, "I didn't expect you, a delinquent teenager, still know how to save people." Yusuke looked at the little boy, made sure the boy was fine. Yusuke was relieved. The Grim Reaper girl waved her hand. Space door opens a crack instantly. A river appeared in front. The sky was full of sky lanterns. Yusuke and the Grim Reaper girl were already sitting on a small boat. A palace floating in the distance, that's Yama's palace. Koenma is waiting for Yusuke inside. At this moment, Koenma opened a scroll, threw it in the air. With a wave of his hand, he sees all the past of a person's life, so young and yet the king of hell. With a sweep of his hand, the scroll is rolled up again. Another wave. The scroll flies into the lotus pond, floating up to heaven. He then opens another scroll and throws it into the lotus pond. The raging fire incinerates the scroll, falling into hell. This operation shocks Yusuke. At this moment, Koenma turns his head, making Yusuke even more surprised. The handsome man in front of him is actually sucking on a pacifier. Koenma gets straight to the point. He wants to revive Yusuke, on the condition that Yusuke becomes a detective in the underworld. Recently, a demon beast called Demon Ascaris has quietly infiltrated the human world. Yusuke's death is also related to the demon Ascaris, such a good thing as resurrection. Koenma thought Yusuke would gladly accept, but was rejected by Yusuke on the spot. After speaking, he turned and left. It turns out that Yusuke felt as a troublemaker. He has always been a burden to his mother and friends. Maybe leaving would make everyone more relaxed. 4 hours before Yusuke's car accident, he was just scolded by the teacher. The kid who gets picked on is caught by the school bully again, pushed against the wall. The poor kid can only take out protection money, but the school bully thinks it's too little. A punch and knocked down the kid to the ground, takes out his wallet, and took all the money inside. All this is just seen by Yusuke. He grabs the bully's collar and presses him against the wall. This scene is just seen by the teacher, misunderstanding that Yusuke is bullying his classmates. The poor kid just wanted to explain for Yusuke. A look from the school bully scared him into silence. The teacher immediately expelled Yusuke from school. Yusuke returns the money to the poor kid. Too lazy to explain himself, he walks out of the school, back home. He is also disliked by his mother. Simply let Yusuke drop out of school. Mother raised Yusuke alone. It is very difficult. Depressed Yusuke walks on the street and is stopped by his archenemy, Kazuma. Kazuma is also a delinquent, but he can't beat Yusuke in a fight, so he often comes to challenge Yusuke. Yusuke is just looking for some ways to vent. A strong kick, and Kazuma was flying. Kazuma, unwilling to admit defeat, pounces again, and is kicked flying again. 3 foot away, Kazuma charges again. Yusuke hits him with a rising punch. A big bump appears on his head. Kazuma is still unwilling to admit his defeat, staggering to throw a punch again, but Yusuke has already left. At this time, the road is congested due to construction. Impatient truck drivers keep complaining. Suddenly a bug falls on the driver's shoulder, instantly drilling into the driver's mouth. Then the driver's face is full of blue veins, directly hitting the car in front. Then the driver is like possessed, rampaging on the street. This caused Yusuke's accident. The Grim Reaper girl takes Yusuke to attend his own funeral. The little boy saved by Yusuke also came to the funeral and expressed his gratitude to Yusuke. Yusuke's mother, who disliked him, and Keiko, crying bitterly. Yusuke realizes he has always misunderstood everyone. Yusuke decides to agree to Koenma to let himself be resurrected. The poor kid was surrounded and beaten by the school bully. The bully kicked the poor kid down, grabbed his neck, lit a lighter, about to burn him to death. At this moment, a bug entered the poor kid's ear. The poor kid seemed to be possessed by a demon. He grabbed the bully's neck, seized the lighter in his hand, and threw the bully away. Then he let out a roar. His body twisted strangely, uncontrollably rushed towards the bully, then hit a motorcycle. Gas was slowly leaking out, about to flow to the lighter. The bully was so scared that he turned and ran, and then a raging fire suddenly ignited. Yusuke's home was unfortunately on fire. His mother wanted to rush into the flames to save Yusuke, but was thought to be too upset, and was firmly stopped by the neighbors. At this time, Keiko rushed into the house without hesitation, holding Yusuke's body and dragging him out. But Keiko was too weak, and the fire was getting bigger and bigger. Keiko quickly fell down. Seeing Keiko about to be burned to death, suddenly a beam fell from the top. As a soul, Yusuke can actually hold the beam. The energy radiating from his hands kept Yusuke's hands unharmed. On the other side, Koenma rotated his hands. A huge energy ball appeared in the palm of his hand. He gently pushed the energy ball into the mirror. Yusuke woke up instantly and successfully saved Keiko. Then Yusuke accepted the first mission, to eliminate the demon Ascaris. The ones that entered the driver's mouth and the poor kid's ear were demon Ascaris. This kind of worm will possess people with negative emotions and infinitely amplify their ferocity. At this time, Kazuma was fighting with his sidekicks against the poor kid. The kid who was possessed by the demon Ascaris was now a complete monster. He picked up a fire stick and swung it down. The sidekick was instantly on fire. Kazuma and several others rushed up, but they couldn't hold him down. He hit Kazuma on the head with a heavy stick. Kazuma immediately felt dizzy. The poor kid raised the stick again. Yusuke came. A flying kick in the air saved Kazuma. The poor kid lightly waved and sent Yusuke flying 10 feet away. Yusuke punched, but the poor kid bent down to dodge and grabbed Yusuke's arm, clamping tightly on Yusuke's neck. Yusuke broke free and threw him hard against the wall. While fighting, Yusuke asked Koenma how to expel the demon Ascaris. Koenma said that only the spiritual power in the body could be used, the power he just used to save Keiko. At this time, the poor kid was completely controlled by the demon Ascaris. He became half human and half demon. One hand turned into a sharp claw and directly pounced on Yusuke. Then, like a worm, he quickly wriggled on the ground, waving sharp claws and rushing towards Yusuke. Then he turned over, scratching Yusuke's stomach. The poor kid rubbed Yusuke against the wall. Yusuke yanked off the power cord, wrapped it around the poor kid's neck, and broke free. The poor kid rushed over again, only to be pulled back by the cord. The poor kid swung at Yusuke, then broke free from the electrical wire, and chased after Yusuke. During the fight, the poor kid clawed and punctured a gas tank. The leaking gas instantly caused an explosion. Yusuke quickly picked up a wooden board to block, but the violent shockwave still sent both of them flying into the sky. Immediately following, the poor kid limped towards Yusuke. Yusuke raised a bicycle, pressing the poor kid firmly against the wall. Trying to awaken his consciousness, he pushed the bicycle away. Yusuke forcefully pushed him and delivered a flying kick, kicking the poor kid away. The poor kid lay motionless on the ground. Yusuke walked over, moved the bicycle, grabbed the poor kid's collar. His other hand clenched into a fist, activating spiritual power. Seeing the spiritual power growing larger and stronger, he roared, "Get out of him!" A punch landed on the poor kid's face, forcing the demon Ascaris out. Yusuke picked it up and crushed it in his hand. Yusuke finally completed the mission and saved the poor kid. Seeing Yusuke, who had returned from the dead, his mother and Keiko hugged Yusuke, crying with joy. But everything was just beginning. There were more arduous tasks waiting for him to complete. There are 3 great treasures in the spirit world: the sword of exorcism that turns humans into demons when struck, the dark mirror that can fulfill wishes on a full moon night, and the evil spirit ball that steals human souls. All have been stolen. Yusuke's next mission is to retrieve the 3 great treasures, but the thieves are the immensely strong tough ghost, the reincarnated 1000-year fox demon Kurama, and the #1 fast sword guy, Evil Eye High. But can Yusuke, who is just learning to use spiritual power, be their match? On the second day of becoming a spirit world detective, Yusuke is not yet proficient in using spiritual power. After several attempts, the spiritual ball is not even as big as a golf ball. Under the guidance of Koenma, he finally condensed a huge spiritual gun, but before it could be shot out, the spiritual gun deflated like a balloon, disappearing in an instant. Koenma was so angry he rolled his eyes. With Yusuke's ability now, how can he retrieve the 3 great secrets? At this time, the spirit mirror suddenly showed children collapsing in groups. It seems that Tough Ghost has already started to use the evil spirit ball to devour the souls of children. Yusuke had a fight with Tough Ghost, which led to the opening scene. Yusuke won and got the evil spirit ball. The dark mirror is a magical artifact. Wishing upon it on a full moon night can make any wish come true. Even the destruction of the earth can be achieved if the dark mirror is used by evil people. The consequences would be unimaginable. The one who stole it is the fox demon Kurama. Kurama was present at Yusuke's duel with Tough Ghost. What wish does Kurama want to fulfill with the dark mirror? That day, Kurama deliberately appeared in front of Yusuke. Koenma saw all this in the spirit mirror. He warned Yusuke to be careful, but Yusuke still followed. He followed Kurama to a hospital, but Kurama disappeared. As Yusuke was looking for Kurama, he suddenly appeared behind Yusuke and said to him, after fulfilling the wish, he would definitely return the dark mirror. Then Kurama came to the bedside, in front of a seriously ill human woman, called her mother. How could a demon have a human mother? The 1000-year-old fox demon, severely injured and pursued by enemies, hid on a human ovum, nurtured and raised by a human mother with care. He had planned to leave once grown up, but his mother fell ill. To repay his mother's nurturing kindness, Kurama stole the dark mirror. Wishing to save her life, Yusuke was moved by Kurama's filial piety and decided to fulfill his wish. Soon the full moon night arrived, but the Grim Reaper girl hurriedly found Yusuke, wanting to prevent everything. It turned out that using the dark mirror to fulfill a wish came with a condition. At the moment the wish was granted, the dark mirror would take the life of the wisher. This meant that while saving Kurama's mother's life, Kurama would die. Yusuke rushed to the hospital to stop Kurama, but it was one step too late. Kurama had already activated the dark mirror. He reached his hand into the mirror, and in an instant, a colorful green light filled the entire ward. Kurama was also sucked into the dark mirror. Without hesitation, Yusuke rushed in and was instantly absorbed into the mirror. He persuaded Kurama to change his mind, offering to share half of his life to bear the burden for Kurama. Kurama tried to stop it, but it was too late. The dark mirror activated instantly, and after both of them screamed in pain, they fell heavily to the ground. When they woke up, Kurama's mother also woke up, miraculously recovered. Not only did Yusuke retrieve the dark mirror, but he also became friends with Kurama. Next, they were to find the sword of exorcism. In the dark night, a dark figure descended from the sky, striding swiftly, easily catching up with a speeding car. Standing in front of it, the driver, unable to avoid in time, slammed on the brakes, causing the car to roll over. The men split the car in half with one cut, terrifying the driver, who trembled in fear. The men opened the safe with another cut, stealing the ice tear stone inside. This ice tear stone, invaluable, was the tear of his sister, Yukina. The man was the fastest sword, Hai, who also stole the sword of exorcism. Whoever obtained the sword of exorcism could possess the ability they had always desired. How could Yukina's tear be in the driver's hands? It turned out that the richest man in the city had captured Yukina, aiming to get the ice tear stone. He cruelly burned her arm with a cigarette, causing Yukina to shed a tear in pain. The moment the tear hit the ground, it turned into the invaluable ice tear stone. Hai stole the sword of exorcism to rescue his sister. The young man wanted to open his third eye. Hai raised the sword of exorcism and slashed it towards his forehead. Immediately, a celestial eye opened on his head. Hai placed the ice tear stone on his forehead, allowing the celestial eye to search for his sister's aura. 3D scanning quickly located the car carrying the ice tear stone. Upon learning that the ice tear stone had been stolen, the richest man was furious and immediately contacted Sakio, who had given him Yukina. Under Sakio's promise to make Yukina produce more ice tear stones, the richest man agreed to bring Yukina to Sakio. At this moment, Hai, following the ice tear stone, arrived at the mansion of the richest man. Koenma observed every move of Hai. Through the spirit mirror, he immediately sent Yusuke to the mansion. As soon as Yusuke arrived, he heard a burst of gunfire. It was the security guards who had discovered Hai. Hai was invulnerable to knives and guns, terrifying the security guards into a heap on the ground. They could only say that Yukina had been transferred, but they did not know where she had gone. At this time, Yusuke jumped down from the roof, intending to retrieve the sword of exorcism. Which is more important, speed or strength? Yusuke swung a punch, but Hai had already teleported behind Yusuke, kicking him to the ground with a flying kick and walking away. Yusuke chased after him and continued to attack. Hai leaned back slightly, easily dodging, then rushed towards Yusuke, taking his knife towards and stab at Yusuke's chest. Yusuke was about to condense a spiritual gun for counterattack, when Hai disappeared again. As Yusuke was puzzled, the hilt of a sword was placed on his neck. Hai mocked, "It's a waste of my time. Humans are not even worthy of me drawing my sword." After saying this, he completely ignored Yusuke and left. Yusuke, tasting defeat for the first time, was very angry. Koenma found a master for Yusuke to learn from, but the proud Yusuke flatly refused. Coincidentally, Kazuma, who was eavesdropping, heard this. He was very eager to learn martial arts, both to defeat Yusuke and to protect his sidekicks. Yusuke could only agree to learn. They climbed 10,000 steps and finally found Master Genkai. This old man is a martial arts master. When Kazuma and Yusuke were making a fuss, Master of Genkai shouted loudly, directly blasting the two off the mountain. Having witnessed Genkai's abilities, they obediently accepted Genkai's training. Yusuke was asked to use one finger to activate spiritual power, to stand on his hands for 12 hours, but he couldn't even hold the position for a few minutes. Falling to the ground, unable to persist, he quickly began to question this monotonous practice. To cure Yusuke's youthful arrogance, Genkai proposed a duel with him. Yusuke jumped up with a punch. Genkai retreated quickly with his hands behind his back to dodge. Yusuke threw left jabs and right hooks. Genkai swayed left and right, easily dodging each punch. Genkai didn't forget to praise Yusuke. "You learn quickly. You've already learned high speed so quickly." But Yusuke couldn't even get close to Genkai, and was kicked flying by Genkai. Yusuke swung another punch. held against the wall by Genkai, unable to move. Genkai also mocked Yusuke. With such impatience, surely no girl would like you. This made Yusuke furious and he broke free from Genkai. Yusuke launched an attack. Genkai lightly leaped over Yusuke's head. As Yusuke just got up, he was hit in the forehead by Genkai. Staggering just to stand firm, Genkai then attacked his lower body. Yusuke finally approached Genkai, who directly did the splits, slid behind Yusuke, and stood up easily after a 180-degree rotation. Yusuke chased again. Genkai performed a reverse hook kick, once again knocking Yusuke down. Yusuke was not convinced and launched another attack. The same reverse hook kick was blocked by Genkai. Genkai not only marveled at Yusuke's talent, he learned it just by watching once. Yusuke took off his clothes to attack with full force. Genkai threw a handful of walnuts. Yusuke stepped on and fell on his back. Genkai warned him, "Practice well, let your strength speak." Feeling depressed, Yusuke went to the yard. This young man is really crazy. Kazuma kept beating a huge boulder with a stick. His task was to break the boulder with the stick. Yusuke couldn't believe it. This was an impossible task. To break a huge boulder with a small stick. It was simply a fantasy. But Kazuma was not discouraged. He broke one stick and continued with another. Genkai grabbed Yusuke's ear, making him continue practicing. But Yusuke still thought standing on his hands was a waste of time. He was not willing to practice at all. After half a month, there was still no progress. At night, Yusuke came to the court to take a walk, seeing the ground covered with sticks broken by Kazuma. Kazuma, exhausted and with bloody hands, still insisted on not giving up. He roared and swung at the stone again. This time the stick seemed to have spiritual power. Enveloped by a blue light, the huge boulder was split in half and fell down. The stick in Kazuma's hand turned into a spiritual sword. Kazuma's perseverance finally paid off. Seeing all this, Yusuke was greatly inspired. He began to practice hard, and finally persisted for a full 12 hours. Genkai was very pleased. Yusuke's spiritual power increased greatly. With a light exertion, he condensed a huge spiritual gun. The spiritual gun, like a rocket, broke through the clouds, shooting into the sky for tens of thousands of feet. Seeing the right time, Genkai passed on his lifelong secret technique, the Spirit Orb, to Yusuke. The Spirit Orb Wave Fist can absorb the spiritual power of the human body and make it his own. Yusuke and Kazuma, who had learned a lot, left Genkai. On the other side, Sakio brought the richest man into his private residence, which was filled with wealthy people. How extravagant are the rich people! Sakio raised various monsters in his private residence, opened a beast fighting arena for the entertainment of the rich, and made huge profits from it. In order to accumulate energy, to open the pit connecting the demon world and the human world, a Tyrannosaurus Rex was released. With a bloody mouth, it rushed over. The strongman across was not panicked at all. He punched a hole in the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The strongman was younger Toguro. Seeing Sakio's strength, the richest man was very relieved to hand over the Yukina to Sakio. But as soon as the cage was opened, it was empty. Where did the Yukina go? It turned out that the richest man's bodyguard, unable to bear seeing Yukina suffer anymore, quietly rescued her. But there were Sakio's eyes everywhere. As soon as the two were about to escape by plane, they were stopped by Elder Troy. Elder Troy's fingers changed into 3 feet long, piercing through the bodyguard's belly. The bodyguard fired back with several shots, hitting Elder Troy's face full of bullet holes. But unexpectedly, the next second, Elder Troy's face is as good as new. This man's body can deform. He stretched out another finger, piercing through the bodyguard's forehead. Yukina cried sadly. Her tears turned into piles of ice tear stones. The richest man was overjoyed. As soon as Yusuke left, uninvited guests came to Genkai. It was younger Toguro sent by Sakio. Learning that Genkai had given away the spirit orb, younger Toguro instantly turned into a muscular man, punching Genkai into the wall, and unable to get up again. When Yusuke returned home, he saw Hai abducting Keiko. Yusuke followed closely and finally found Hai. The Grim Reaper girl who learned about Keiko's abduction hurriedly found Kazuma for help. Found Hai. Yusuke didn't say a word. He started fighting right away. Although Yusuke's strength has improved, but he is still not a match for Hai. Hai's speed is like lightning. Yusuke was kicked to the ground by Hai in 2 moves. Yusuke got up and tried to trip Hai. Hai easily avoided it with a 360-degree leap in the air. Yusuke condensed a spiritual gun, punching and breaking the wall. Hai dodged to the side. He also saw Yusuke's strength. This is an exciting battle. Yusuke punched Hai in the face. Unexpectedly, it revealed another face. The man who showed his true face directly knocked Keiko unconscious. The man was Elder Troy. He can change his appearance to become anyone. However, Yusuke, who didn't know the truth, was fighting fiercely with Hai. Yusuke, whose strength has increased, forced Hai to draw his long sword. Yusuke shot a spiritual gun and knocked the two flying. Yusuke roared and asked Hai to hand over Keiko. Hai then understood Yusuke's intention, but Yusuke didn't give Hai a chance to explain. He launched an attack again, but was interrupted by a whip from Kazuma. He told Yusuke that someone else had abducted Keiko. Yusuke then realized he had made a mistake, and immediately apologized to Hai. Hai turned and left, but was stopped by Kazuma. He used the whereabouts of the Yukina as a bargaining chip to recruit Hai. It turned out, both Keiko and the Yukina were imprisoned on Sakio's. At this time, Kazuma also rushed over. The four of them went to Sakio's cruise ship together, wanting to rescue the Yukina and Keiko. Unexpectedly, they were invited on board by Sakio. It turned out that they had long been regarded as a member of the beast fighting arena by Sakio, to make huge profits for him, to accumulate energy to open the entrance to the demon world. The richest man questioned Sakio. What if he lost the bet? Sakio has never lost. He loaded 5 bullets into a revolver, then aimed at his own head, and pulled the trigger. He was unharmed. Seeing the frenzied Sakio, the richest man was so frightened that he dared not question anymore. The several people who entered the cruise ship walked into a warehouse. Suddenly, a hand appeared behind Kurama, brushing his hair. Kurama swiftly retaliated with a long whip, starting the attack. The opponent, dressed in black with flowing long hair, was named Rando. Rando easily dodged the attack, blaming Kurama. Why don't you take care of your hair? This angered Yusuke, who was about to fight him, but was stopped by Kurama. They had a more important mission, to rescue Keiko and Yukina. Rando's offensive was fierce, a set of deadly claws. Each claw aimed to disfigure Kurama. Kurama lashed out with a whip, rotating 360 degrees in the air, entangling Rando. Rando launched a bomb with his bare hands. It turned out he could control bombs, and those with low spiritual power couldn't even see the bombs. Rando continuously fired bombs. In his human form, Kurama was no match. He could only keep dodging. Suddenly, a water sphere appeared in Rando's hand. Immediately after, countless water spheres emerged in the air. Kurama conjured a rose out of thin air and threw it out. The rose punctured through the water spheres. Rando immediately threw the water sphere in his hand. Kurama leaped into the air and threw a rose straight through Rando's palm. Rando fired a fireball again, directly blasting Kurama 162 feet away. Then he launched a series of globes. The raging fire engulfed Kurama. Just as Rando thought he had defeated Kurama, a white fox stood behind him. It was the true form of Kurama, a 1,000-year-old fox demon. Kurama's spiritual power had increased by more than 20 times. Rando fired bombs again. In the black smoke, Kurama disappeared. Rando turned his head. Kurama appeared behind him. Just about to attack, Kurama disappeared again. When he reappeared, the young man could control any plant. 2 huge mimosas appeared behind Kurama. Rando continuously fired water spheres. All were swallowed by the mimosas. Kurama warned Rando. The mimosas would actively attack moving objects. If you don't want to die, you'd better not act rashly. Then, the mimosas opened and closed one after another, chasing Rando with nowhere to hide. Rando was surrounded by mimosas, opening its big mouth, entangling Rando. Just as Kurama was about to launch the final attack, Kurama's face changed dramatically. He suddenly noticed the vines were withering. Having been a human for too long, Kurama's demonic power was greatly reduced. Rando quickly broke free, and struck Kurama with a move. At this moment, Rando's murderous intent was fully open. Kurama, who had returned to human form, had no power to fight back. Kurama resisted Rando's attack with his physical body, pouncing and firmly holding the palm that had been pierced by the rose thorns. He was knocked down and couldn't get up, but Kurama asked Rando, "Do you know Shimatsuki grass? A parasitic plant that takes root in the body. As long as I say a specific word, it will explosively grow, breaking out of the body. Have you ever seen a plant that can explode?" Rando looked at his palm, and then understood Kurama's desperate purpose, holding his palm. Now Kurama was deliberately delaying time, letting the woodgrass take root in Rando's body. A root system traveled inside Rando's body, breaking through his body in an instant. Kurama shouted, "Goodbye." Rando's body blossomed countless flowers, and he fell heavily to the ground. On the other side, Hai was stopped by Bui, who carried a 1,000-pound large axe. "Brother, you're blocking my way. Get out of the way." With a loud clang, the big axe fell to the ground. Hai drew his long knife and rushed forward, but Bui was incredibly strong. He directly pushed Hai away. Then a sweep. The stone pillar was cut off at the waist. The rich man, watching the battle, immediately placed a bet of 10 billion, betting on Bui to win. In order to avenge the attack on his lair, Hai was directly thrown away by the big axe. He quickly jumped onto the ladder. Bui leaped into the air 65 feet, raising the big axe and splitting the ladder in half. Hai was heavily thrown to the ground. Although Hai was agile, he was still closely pursued by Bruce. This man is too strong. A single axe cut Hai's face. Hai's so angry right now. Throwing out the long knife and cutting Bruce's headscarf. Pressing against Bruce's throat, he cut through Bruce's mask, leaping into the air and bouncing Bui onto the chain, knocking Bui back repeatedly. The helmet even flew out. Bui stood up, took off his armor. With a force, his whole body was immediately shrouded in a black air. Hai chopped at Bruce's body. It was like tickling Bruce. It couldn't hurt Bui at all. The wounds on his body healed instantly. Clusters of black air gathered on Bruce's hands. Continuous attacks forced Hai into a corner. Hai's long knife was knocked away. Bruce's storm punch pierced through 3 walls. Hai shakily stood up. Bui turned around in surprise. Hai was actually unharmed. The young man got angry. He removed the bandage from his arm, revealing the dragon on his arm. He opened his palm. A black fire dragon instantly wrapped around Hai. This is Hai's special move, the Black Dragon Wave. Bui made a defensive preparation with black air all over his body. Hai waved his hand. The soaring fire dragon rushed straight at Bruce. The ground was smashed into a huge pit. Bui was burned into charcoal. The poor richest man lost 10 billion. So angry that he keeps swearing. Yusuke and Kazuma searched for Yukina and Keiko separately. At this time, Keiko and Yukina were locked together. Yukina saw Keiko's injured hand. Her hands exuded cold air. Keiko's injury healed visibly. Yukina turned out to be a monster. Keiko was scared, but still decided to escape with Yukina. Keiko lay on the ground pretending to have a stomachache, attracting the guard to come over, then attacked the guard's lower body, and then knocked the guard out, opened the cage, ran away with Yukina. Little did they know that Sakio had seen them in the monitor. Keiko, with Yukina, carefully looked for the exit. Suddenly, a figure approached. Keiko took advantage of the surprise and attacked the person, causing the person to fall to their knees in pain. The person turned out to be Kazuma, who had come to rescue them. Kazuma looked up and saw the pure and lovely Yukina. Instantly falling in love, Kazuma led Keiko and the others to a door, from which a Tyrannosaurus Rex suddenly charged out. The 3 of them started running, but how could 2 legs outrun 4? Yukina accidentally fell, and the T-Rex pounced towards her. Kazuma picked up the Yukina, pushed Keiko away, causing the T-Rex to miss. The T-Rex, targeting the vulnerable, prepared to pounce on the Yukina again. Keiko struck the ground loudly to attract the T-Rex, threw a stick to Kazuma, and ran away with Yukina. Keiko suddenly noticed the rolling shutter door above her head, smashed the switch, and the door slowly closed. Kazuma ran towards the door without hesitation, with the T-Rex in hot pursuit. At the last moment, just as the door was about to close, Kazuma made a desperate leap, and managed to shut the T-Rex inside. Before they could catch their breath, the 3 of them encountered Elder Toguro. Yukina recognized her captor at a glance. Kazuma charged forward and swung his stick, striking Elder Toguro's shoulder, but in the next moment, flowers bloomed from the shoulder, enveloping the stick, and a head emerged from the shoulder wound. Then, with a perfectly intact hand, he grabbed the stick, leaving Kazuma stunned. Could it be possible to do such a thing? Then, Elder Toguro's arm transformed into a sharp knife, about to stab Kazuma. Kazuma was frozen in fear. No match for Elder Toguro. Elder Toguro's body was incredibly versatile, made a fool of Kazuma. He dropped his stick, and as Elder Toguro was about to finish him off, the daring Keiko threw a fire hydrant at his head. "You're looking for death," Elder Toguro said, raising the knife to stab Keiko. To protect Keiko, Kazuma's spirit erupted, condensing into a spiritual sword, and with one strike, he shattered Elder Toguro into pieces. But before Kazuma could breathe a sigh of relief, Elder Toguro's hand transformed into a sword again, stabbing Kazuma's shoulder. Elder Toguro's body instantly regenerated. At this time, Yusuke also encountered his opponent, the most powerful demon, Younger Toguro. Troy the Younger saw Yusuke, who looked like a weakling, and didn't take him seriously, beckoning him to come over. Yusuke took the initiative with a flying punch, but in the next moment, Younger Toguro countered with a punch to Yusuke's face. Younger Toguro let go and walked forward, the disparity in strength causing Yusuke to keep retreating. Younger Toguro delivered a fierce punch to the heart, knocking Yusuke down and unable to get up. He could only hide behind a pillar, but Younger Toguro kicked the pillar, sending both the pillar and Yusuke flying. Without giving Yusuke a chance to react, he kicked again, treating Yusuke like a ball. Then, leaping into the air, he delivered an iron punch, creating a 3 feet deep crater in the ground. The collapsing shelves nearly cost the richest man his life. The Grim Reaper girl sensed a powerful energy gathering at the celestial pit, attempting to open the entrance. From the demon realm to the human world, Koenma quickly activated his spiritual power, condensing it into a protective barrier. But this barrier couldn't hold for long. To protect the human world, Koenma had to reveal himself and find Sakio, hoping to persuade him to stop his actions. But Sakio was unmoved. even stating that the barrier couldn't stop him from connecting the human and demon realms. Sakio, the crazy gambler, even proposed to bet on the battle between Yusuke and younger Toguro. If Yusuke could win, he would stop trying to connect the two realms. Younger Toguro was the strongest demon, and Koenma knew that Yusuke's chances of winning were slim. He couldn't fully trust Sakio either. To prove himself, Sakio took out his revolver again, gambling with his own life. Yusuke was no match for younger Toguro, who knocked him flying with a mere shoulder bump. Yusuke took the opportunity to grab younger Toguro's thigh, pushing with all his might, trying to pin him against an iron pillar. Younger Toguro was the strongest man on earth. With a single kick, Yusuke was sent flying 5 feet away. There was no chance of winning in such a bet. Younger Toguro casually threw an iron rack, and Yusuke had no strength to dodge. Just as Yusuke was about to be crushed, Hai descended from the sky, his great knife slicing through the iron rack. Kurama followed closely, and the three of them charged at younger Toguro together. But even with all their efforts, they were no match for him. Kurama used his long whip to tightly bind younger Toguro, while Hai and Yusuke attacked together, but they were still instantly dismantled by younger Toguro. As Yusuke tried to condense a spiritual gun, he was pinned to the ground by younger Toguro. Younger Toguro grabbed Yusuke by the neck, and when Kurama's whip tried to bind him, he brushed it aside. Yusuke tried to punch, but due to the size difference, he couldn't reach younger Toguro. Kurama bound younger Toguro again, and Hai also grabbed younger Toguro's thigh. Yusuke took the opportunity to break free. Yusuke immediately launched a spiritual gun to pin younger Toguro against the pillar. He condensed another spiritual gun, pressing younger Toguro into the wall. In a flash, just when everyone thought the fight was over, younger Toguro walked out unscathed, mocking Yusuke. "Is that all you've got?" Kazuma and the other two, who had been toyed with by elder Toguro, found Yusuke at this moment. Yusuke was being beaten to the brink of death. Keiko wanted to step forward but was stopped by elder Toguro. Elder Toguro saw the battered trio, and deliberately announced that Genkai had been killed by younger Toguro, just to provoke Yusuke and Kazuma. It turned out that younger Toguro was once human, and was once a lover with Genkai, but to make himself stronger, he sold his soul to the demon realm, becoming a demon. Elder Toguro began to mock Genkai, but before he could finish, younger Toguro grabbed his throat, lifted him up, and punched him into pieces. Kazuma, filled with grief and anger, condensed a spiritual sword and struck, which was easily held by younger Toguro. Kazuma questioned why younger Toguro had to kill Genkai. Younger Toguro stepped on Kazuma's throat and replied, "Genkai was blind, choosing such a loser as Yusuke." Yusuke also remembered Genkai's entrustment to him. "You have to become stronger to protect everyone." Yusuke struggled to stand up, activated the spiritual orb taught by Genkai, and launched a continuous attack, hitting younger Toguro, who was unable to fight back. Then, leaping into the air, he punched younger Toguro in the head, burying him underground. Just when everyone thought the fight was over, a huge crack opened on the ground. After a moment of shaking, a massive lump suddenly protruded. He is the strongest man on earth. Younger Toguro actually drilled out from the ground. He brought out 100% of his strength, transformed into the ultimate form. His muscles were well defined, and even the most vulnerable neck was protected by layers of muscles. He snapped his fingers, and the air pressure sprayed out, bouncing Yusuke into the air. Yusuke tried to launch a spiritual gun, but younger Toguro snapped his fingers again, directly shattering it. He then punched Yusuke into the sky, and squeezed his neck tightly. However, he wasn't in a hurry to finish him off. Instead, he chatted with him, asking, "Why don't you have a sense of crisis? Are you so sure you won't die?" Meanwhile, the barrier set by Koenma was about to fail, and he couldn't help but regret his bet. Meanwhile, the Grim Reaper girl discovered why younger Toguro became a demon. 50 years ago, younger Toguro was attacked by a demon. After being defeated, all of younger Toguro's disciples were swallowed by the demon. Even now, younger Toguro was still thinking about how to stimulate Yusuke to use all his energy. This is the most exciting duel in Yu Yu Hakusho. Yusuke versus younger Toguro. Yusuke's attack was weak. Younger Toguro simply raised his hand and knocked Yusuke into the wall. Younger Toguro raised his hand at Keiko. Kazuma stood in front of Keiko. Younger Toguro killed Kazuma with one hit. The intense grief made Yusuke stand up. He couldn't forgive himself for not being able to protect anyone. Yusuke exploded completely. Younger Toguro turned around, but Yusuke had already teleported in front of him and punched him, ending him flying. But the next second, younger Toguro stood up and scathed again. He urged Yusuke to abandon his friends, like he did, and become as powerful as he was. But in Yusuke's eyes, friends are his strong support, and the source of strength. Yusuke exhausted all his spiritual power, and condensed an unprecedented huge spiritual orb. This is Yusuke's big move. The huge spiritual orb hit younger Toguro. Younger Toguro didn't dodge, but used all his strength to block the oversized spiritual sphere. In front of everyone, younger Toguro actually caught the spiritual gun, but it consumed all his strength. Younger Toguro said finally, "Thanks, Yusuke. This is the first time I've seen your power so strong. Not bad." After saying this, younger Toguro fell to the ground and turned to ashes. In the end, Yusuke won the battle. As promised, Sakio closed the celestial pit and committed suicide by shooting himself. Yusuke ultimately protected his friends and humanity. Yukina used her healing power to revive Kazuma. Hai, who rescued his sister, also fulfilled his wish. He handed over the sword of exorcism. Everything returned to calm. Yusuke finally fulfilled Genkai's entrustment. However, a greater crisis is waiting for them. This film is called Yu Yu Hakusho. This film is good, and I recommend the original film. Thank you for liking and subscribing. See you next time. Bye.